Earlier, this is going to be an interesting session today because as we work our way through the first several transparencies, we will be looking at a lot of maps. And one particular map I want you to know beforehand that we will be looking at is a National Geographic rendering of Iran, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay it on this table here, and then at a certain point I'm going to walk it around, because on the back we see the terrain again of not Iran, but the extent of the extreme boundaries of the original first Persian Empire. Okay? And we really want to understand that there were several Persian empires, the first, the second, the third. There may even be considered a fourth or fifth. The modern day Persia that Ezekiel was speaking of gives us some very important considerations about the modern day situation we're in today. The general position of just about all your prophecy students in the world at large and your journalists is that Iran is ancient Persian. Well, that's too short-sighted and too much tunnel vision there, trying to just look at Iran as modern-day Persian. Iran plus Iraq plus Syria plus Lebanon would fit much better if we think of the first Persian Empire. And the first Persian Empire, if you just hold that up, thank you. The first Persian Empire, it extended up into Turkey and all of the eastern Mediterranean coast and part of North Africa, including Egypt, and then all the way back to the Indus River. Here, the next countries being after that, Pakistan and Afghanistan, India, and so on. So the greater first Persian Empire, that was its greatest extent. It is shown here in beige, or brown here, and then this timeline where you see the dark brown, I hope you can see this. The timeline, dark brown, is where you had the first empire, then it began to re-emerge as a second empire, and where you get into the dark brown again, there is the full matured empire at that point in time. Then there's a break over here, and then it re-emerges here in a sorts, and we get way over here. That's why we say there may be actually 5 phases to the ancient Persian Empire. Okay? Now, when we understand that, we can understand the Magog prophecy a lot better in light of world events that are taking place right now. As we will work our way through this, and we're not going to rush. We're going to be reading some. Let's see, I ought to keep this open. And what I'll probably do is I'll get this laminated, which means that I'll have to bring each class rolled up. But I'm going to leave this over here because we will want to look at it again. Okay, and this cow, is this the sacred cow?
If you want it to be.
You won't get me to say that. All right. I brought in this book here. Can you all see the title?
Ooh, that's what you got to say about it.
Yeah. This, among about 20 other books, stacked up on my arm all the way up to my shoulder when I was up in White Plains, New York, getting ready to come back to Rio de Janeiro. I had been in meetings up in Boston with the Stone and Webster Engineering Company, and I went to this large bookstore in White Plains, New York, because it was near Colchester, New York, where my foster parents lived. I was visiting them and trying to witness to them, but in the meantime, I was, in those days, it was Idlewild Airport. Idlewild Airport. It became JFK. And
it's JFK now?
Yeah. Okay. And I had to be at that airport 2 hours in advance, not because of security, but just because of whatever. So I was racing around that place, and I had all these books, cults and paranormal phenomenon, and somehow I picked this up. I'm not going to go into details. Someday I'll share with you my testimony. But I ended up with this in my hands, and that Friday, when I got back into Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, I started reading this Saturday morning. Vera and I went out to the famous Copacabana beach, and I kept reading that all day, Saturday night, Sunday, into about 11 o'clock Sunday night. Vera went to sleep. I turned off the light, and I prayed and accepted Jesus Christ just by reading this book.
What is the name of it?
The Late Great Planet Earth by Hal Lindsey. That was one of the all-time
Seventies, that was the
70s. Yes, and this was 1975. This book is this book in my hands is 37 years old. And I brought it in today because we will be reading excerpts out of it from pages 52 to 59. Now, what I'm doing that's unique with this class, I have never done with the other classes, is in previous lessons on this subject, I would read this because I had underlined it and sort of, well, in those days I did not Xerox color copies and then color transparencies. Back in the 1970s and 80s, that wasn't big stuff. And if it were, it would have been prohibitively expensive. So I've never done it until this class. And what I've done is I have color Xeroxed and have a set of color transparencies, which I'm going to show you. Now, having said all of that, then you'll understand when I put it up on the screen, you're going to see the copying that comes from a book that's 37 years old. You're going to see the aging